So, hi, I am here with Colby Collins, and you are a doctor of metaphysics and transpersonal psychology. You are a certified yoga instructor, an ordained minister. So, you have quite a lot of experience. And so, I just want to say hello and welcome you to the call, and thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Yay. And I first encountered you at Adi Shakti Kundalini Yoga Center, where you were giving donation based soul readings. And I had a reading with you. And I remember that I was crying through much of the reading because I felt like you just really got into the essence of me. I felt really seen and really validated. And so I wanted to interview you today because we're on a similar path of reading people, living a spiritual lifestyle, doing yoga, connecting with the divine, channeling. And I wanted to just ask you questions and find out about your path because I think it is a revolutionary path.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's cutting edge too. And I think it's where we're all headed, really tapping into our sixth sense and letting go of feeling like everything has to be proven scientifically, but really tapping into spirit
hmm
in the spirit world.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm ready. Let's go for a ride.
Awesome. So, what got you started on this path? When did you first realize that you were someone who could channel or read people or that you were in tune to the spirit world?
I would say it began as far back as I can remember. Even as a young child, I felt the Holy Spirit. I grew up in a small town in western North Carolina, in Baptistville, and I went to church from a very early age, and I could really feel the Holy Spirit. And that's the only context I had for it then. All around me, not just at church. I remember asking questions like, I can feel this when I touch a tree, and I feel this when I look at the clouds, and I feel this when I'm being held by my mom, and all kinds of things. And so I always began really feeling it. The spiritual gifts really began opening up when I was around 17 and I had my first Reiki attunement.
Mm.
And before that, I was always really drawn to metaphysics and spiritual things. I was always reading spiritual books and psychology books, even as young as 10 and 11 years old. Sylvia Browne and Life as a Psychic and Journeys on the Other Side and all of that. And when I read those books, the Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. I read that when I was like 12 and 13. And when I was reading those books, it really opened my memory and just felt like I remember this. Like I know this is true. Like I really can feel it. I know it's true. I had left the church when I was about 15 because they didn't like my questions, and I was very bored with their resistance to just even being able to consider some of the questions I was having. And mainly, most of the questions were around this energy of separation. That loving God means that all of these other people that don't believe in our God are condemned unless we save them. And it just didn't make any sense to me at all. It wasn't what was in my heart and in my knowing. And so I began kind of going out and studying on my own and questing and asking questions on my own. And I did a lot of prayer work. And I first started channeling when I was probably 14 or 15. I would do a lot of prayer work with some of these really difficult questions like, how I know that we're all the same, but how can that be possible with everything that everyone's been telling me, and what society says is true. And I would pray about really hard about these questions and go to sleep, and I would wake up in the morning with just this frenzy in my head, and I would write down in a frenzy just all of the stuff, and then I would read it back to myself, and it was an answer to my question from before. And I remember actually Spirit channeled about that question, that all of reality is like a sphere, or God is like a sphere. And we can look at it from an infinite number of directions, and if we can even travel on that sphere in an infinite number of ways in any direction, and we're always going to be going closer to ourselves or closer to the one truth. And that was really neat for me. So when I was 17, I was in, or 18, I had just started college at UNC Chapel Hill. And I was kind of in the closet with my spiritual interests and metaphysical interests. And I found this Louisiana Psychics website. And I remember she had a picture on her page. And when I just stumbled across her page and I looked her in the eyes in her picture, my heart just opened. And I knew that I was supposed to talk with her. So I got a reading from her, and it really transformed my life. And she, like what you said in the beginning about my reading for you, it completely validated you. Felt very validated me. I felt very seen by her, and for the first time really ever, someone was seeing inside my inner world, and the inner world that I wasn't too accustomed sharing with people from my background. And so she told me the first step would be Reiki, and I got in a Reiki class a couple weeks later, and once I had that attunement, all of the gifts just really amplified. I'd always been able to see halos and energy and light around people, but after the attunement, now I was seeing color, and it was really enhanced. And when I did the Reiki healings, I began to really feel and hear my gifts expanding and talking to me.
Wow, that's beautiful. What an amazing journey.
Yeah.
So, what has you continue on this and has you be passionate and purposeful and wanting to share it with others? For you, what does it provide by sharing this? Because not everybody, not everybody is on this similar path or believes really in the nature of metaphysics.
Well, for me, honestly, it's who I am.
Right.
It's who I am, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I've tried to do other things, right? And even when I was in college, I studied lots of different things. I love science. I love history. I love the arts. I'm very interested and excited about all learning. But I truly feel like that all that we can ever endeavor to do is just to know ourselves and express that which we know to be true, the most true. And the way that I've experimented with that is what's most true for me. When I express that, it creates goodness in my life. It makes me feel purposeful and passionate and alive. And that's why I really share these gifts and knowledge and this wisdom, because it's just simply, it makes me happy. It fills me up inside. It makes me feel alive. And I feel alive when I'm running or working out or doing fun things also, but it's that inner calling. That's the only way I know how to say it. I'd be very depressed if I weren't doing it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, very good. I get that. I totally relate. For me, it's just like the soul's call. It's just my ultimate truth. I
yeah,
like the way you say that. It's just, you have to. It's why
yeah,
we're here. And so, what is the juiciest experience you've had spiritually?
exactly.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear that?
Yes, the juiciest experience I've had spiritually. Um, Juiciest, that's an interesting word. I would have to say my Egyptian tantric memories have been my juiciest spiritual experiences. They started happening when I was around 18, and and it still happens to me to this day. Actually, I was just in Hawaii, out in the Kalalau Valley, a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting on a rock, and spirit came and completely took over my body and transported me through the dimensions into another realm in the ancient world where a man was being initiated tantrically by a tantrika. Um, Juicy is the perfect word to describe these tantric experiences. Um, Especially the ones in ancient Egypt. Before I really knew anything about ancient Egypt, I was having very powerful dreams and memories. And I would just sit and this wave of energy would come over me, and my eyes would flutter, and I would just surrender to it and let it take me. And I would find myself in Egypt in the pyramids, and just going through very specific rituals and sacred rites to activate the Kundalini energy to move the tantric energy up through the body for self-realization and union with the beloved within, and then being able to mirror and reflect that with another person or people in the ceremony.
Wow. That is amazing. And I love that you bring up Egypt because this has been part of my spiritual journey. One of the only dreams that I've had that were lucid, where I was in the dream and I knew I was dreaming, I was under the Great Pyramid, and I was being pursued by a king cobra snake. And in the dream, I thought, I'm dreaming, I'll just turn and face my fear. And the snake turned inside out into a treasure chest of jewels.
Oh, yes.
And so this started my novel. I'm writing a fantasy novel that I hope young people will enjoy and adults as well. And I've really channeled all this psychic work and intuitive work and ancient Egypt stuff, because then I had another dream in which the center star in Orion's belt started twirling down toward me. And it was an awakening, and I was outside, and I was like, it's happening, it's true, the veils are thinning, and the veils are dropping, and we are raising our consciousness and going to higher levels of awareness. And the center belt of Orion was part of the access point. And I woke up feeling like perhaps I'd come from another star system, and that was how I came. And
Wow.
I woke up also wanting... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm grinning here because I've had the exact same experiences. When I was 5 years old, standing out, waiting for the bus to go to kindergarten, I remember looking up and seeing Orion and being drawn into that center star and having exactly the same experience, and being taken through my third eye to the interdimensional room there. It's kind of like a portal from all these other star systems. So that's kind of like the command center that we all come through from all the other star systems before coming down to Earth. And I remember that. And every time I look up at Orion, I remember that and I feel that. And I'm also writing a fantasy adventure novel that has all these teachings, and it's all about Egypt and the cobras and the treasure chests and all of it.
It's fascinating.
It's very great. Yeah, I haven't met anyone else before that's been so exact with what I've been receiving all my life, what I want to do with it.
Wow. Well, yay, it gives me chills because, this all started as dreams for me, and then I started writing, and then I was in this story, and people started giving me books and things, and I began to read about Drunvalo Melchizedek and indigenous tribes from around the world who, when they go into meditative states, will meet up under the Great Pyramid in the King's Chamber.
Yes.
And that the walls reverberate the originating sound of Om. And
and that's where the tantric ceremonies were, under the pyramid in those chambers.
Oh my gosh. And so my dream, I have this girl, this goddess archetype, who's going down to the center, and she's going into these rooms, and she's reclaiming her lost soul parts, essentially, and her darkness and her shadow, and has an activation where her kundalini awakens. And when I started reading these books, I had never read them before, so I thought, well, I'm channeling this. This information isn't mine. It's just coming through me.
Right.
And why?
It's in our memory.
Right.
It's in our cosmic memory. It's the journey that we've taken, specifically you and I, but also, thousands of people on the planet here that have come back as this generation to assist in the global awakening. Those are all of us that were in the temples and the sages in the ancient world, and it's encoded in us, in our memory.
And so do you believe what people say, like, we've lived many lifetimes? Do you think we've lived many lifetimes and we've reincarnated? Do you think we're star beings from other planets and we've come in at this particular time to help wake up the memory? We were in ancient Egypt. What do you think? What is it?
I think all of the above is true. Yeah, I've gotten to a point in my journey now where going through the divisions is fun and fascinating for me, but this greatest truth is that it is what is. And so there's different perspectives that we can think about things. We can think about us as star beings, encoded with Sirian and Palladian and Arcturian DNA, and how they played a major role in the seeding of humanity and Homo sapiens, and how we began to, or really, their experiment with consciousness, taking consciousness into the deepest, most densest realm possible, just for the sake of experience.
I really love that theory. No.
and also of experience, having that experience on many different levels in the spectrum through a space-time illusion. So, yeah, I believe it's all true, and to say none of it's true would also be true.
Wow. So fascinating.
that makes
Okay, now I'm seeing a funny picture of your face. Can you still see me and hear me clearly?
yeah, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, now I can hear you.
I saw a quote that there are trivial truths and there are great truths. And the way that you can tell the difference is that the opposite of the trivial truth is obviously false, but the opposite of great truth is also true. And I like that very much. That's kind of what depends on what level of perspective we're looking at the truth. But all is because it's within our realm of experience.
Right. Wow. Wow. I'm just excited and floored. I can't even go to my original questions because I'm so excited about ancient Egypt and Kundalini energy. And so, just before we begin to wrap up, so did you go to Egypt in this lifetime and also travel around there and study?
I haven't. I have not been. I actually have never been across the Atlantic in this body yet. So all of my journeys to Egypt has all been through my memory
Wow.
and through my own intuitive faculties, astral projection, and interdimensional experience.
Wow. So, is there anything else you'd like to say about any of that, or any message that you really feel you have for people through what you've experienced?
I really feel the message in Egypt is that the height of the spiritual hierarchy in Egypt was happening right before the fall of consciousness. Through another cyclical spiral through evolution. You can liken that to the precession of the equinoxes with astrology and all of that. But that knowledge was, and that knowledge of alignment and of free energy and of connection with the greatest source around us and the connection with the star beings and the understanding of all these higher principles. I feel like that was really the last great time on the planet when all of those energies were very available, and then they kind of went into hiding and went into all of our memory. And that's why today, as we're coming out of that cycle and back into another light age, as the precession of the equinoxes roll over again, that all of that ancient wisdom that we experienced and that was very prevalent and on the planet then is coming back through us now.
Wow, I love it. Fabulous. I feel it. I feel it. I know.
And I feel one of the main differences, the difference between then and now, is that to be initiated was something that was very rare. If you're thinking about the whole of the population, a very small percentage are actually initiates in the great wisdom. And I feel like that's why people like you and me have this great calling. I feel almost frustrated that it's not coming through more, and there's this feeling of that it's time for everybody to remember, everyone that's willing, and for at least for it to be available for them. And that's what I love about the modern age with technology, and we can say whatever we want, and really come out in this way and are supported to people find support to broadcast our message. And it wasn't quite that way then. A lot of things had to be kept secret, and a lot of the initiates even had very little contact with the layperson. So
Right.
that's the distinction, and something that I'm really excited about now.
Yay, me too, yes. And I know that I'm excited for my path and the things that I want to share through my books and my writings and my readings and sharing my spiritual truths. And I know you are too. And there are so many people around the world who are experiencing this passionate, just sharing, realizing that we want to live in our highest truth and share.
Yes.
Teach. Express.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So, where can people find you and what do you have to offer?
My website is alignmentswithgrace.com. It's going to be changing over to livingyoursoulnow.com, but I'm in the process of doing that. And what I offer is a very powerful presence and reflection of the soul through my readings and my transformational healing sessions and the Living Your Soul Now spiritual mentor program that I do, which is a complete process of self-inquiry and self-discovery and experimenting with what it feels like to be connected with the soul and just what we're capable of when we're focused on embodying the light of the soul and discovering what that means. So there's kind of a larger scope about what that means. Living in the soul is living in our authentic presence, being truly who we are, being fully responsible for our experience and making our own choices, problem solving, having a life full of passion, doing what you really truly want to do. And then, the much more personal way to connect with that, like what everyone's soul feels like embodied in them is different. And I love being able to help people discover just what their unique soul expression is and how to go about creating their life around that.
That's a beautiful, beautiful, powerful thing and powerful gift in the world. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm working on the larger adventure novel story. I'm excited about talking with you more about that.
Yes.
But I've just finished a smaller like ebook. It's only about 35 pages, but it's about my journey to Kawalao and all the spiritual experiences that I had there. And so they're kind of little mini short stories. Some of them, go back in time and things like that. So it'll be a bit of a preview for things that I'm doing. So look out for that one.
Okay, I will. Thank you. Yes, and I just look forward to everything that you're doing because I know I just took a workshop with you this last weekend, and I just wanted to say that, I've been trained in psychic work. I've gone through schools. And as I'm channeling more and my spiritual abilities are awakening and coming on deck more and more, I realize I don't have to go through the same process and all these sort of like things I learned in the psychic school, but really there's more of a just sort of vibratory healing that occurs. And so with you and your soul readings and the workshop I took this last weekend with you and what you're teaching, I really felt like it was a much simpler process that so many people could tap into and do and use to just like really see each other on a spiritual level. And so I love the pureness of it. I love the ease of it. I love the simplicity and I love the power of it. So, yay.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So do you have anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
That it's my absolute honor and privilege to gifts of spirit in humanity, and I'm so grateful for you and the work that you're doing in your reflection and support you 1,000,000%. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. All right, well, take care. Until
I
next
will.
time. Bye-bye.
Bye.